All right, got a phone one for you, Jeff. Just got another request. There's a good quality company in Northern Virginia who wants us to bid on their RFQ.
No. I mean, we have this conversation once a month, and it always looks like a good idea. But if there's anything that we've learned over the past 12 years of doing this, RFPs, RFQs, whatever you want to call them, suck. They're horrible.
Hey everyone, welcome to 24 Point, where we talk about the tools, techniques, and trials of designing and developing software in the digital agency.
So, we might as well just call this episode, RFQs suck.
I'm fine with that. I know it's popular. I know it's popular to write down everything that you think you know about the product you're about to build and put it in a big PDF and send it out there and have a bunch of agencies come in and nibble on it to find the lowest price. But it is the absolute worst way to build software ever.
Yeah. And again, some agencies love RFQs and that's their whole business and they go after it. But that RFP, RFQ, your request for, a project,
proposal, or quotes, or whatever it is you're looking for.
You will see us. Obviously, we kind of cringe a little bit. You'll probably tell where this is going a little bit based off of that. But RFQs, let's start there because that's usually sometimes that's how we get introduced.
Sure. So we could talk about pros quickly. I think the obvious pro when you build out one of those requests for proposal is you've got a pretty good detailed document of what you want to make, maybe even how you want to make it, which you're going to need no matter what when you start to build a product. But the bad far outweigh the good, in my opinion.
Well, and we get the intent. Like, you just want to get a good idea of what it's going to cost from a variety of different companies.
Yeah.
And how they might approach it. But that goes away pretty quickly, right? Because typically what happens is you already have a company you've been working with, you've been talking to, who's been doing some of that work and have been doing some of that thought process, and they have the inside track. And so every other agency who's bidding on that is sitting there going, I guess I might have a chance. I don't know how I feel about it,
right.
But it's not a fun feeling to sit there and go, well, I don't have the inside track. I don't know this person. And if that RFQ process doesn't really provide for personal connection, like we hate them from that standpoint. But you're in it, so let's go through. So you have RFQs. Some of those negatives. Did the person who wrote the RFQ really understand your product? Do they really understand where you want to go? Do they understand the scope and approach?
Yeah.
The feature set, that begins with question number one. And some companies do that pretty well. Other companies really struggle. And you'll see them. It's kind of like the old days of hiring someone who never hired a tech person.
Right.
Right. Do you do Python, Ruby on Rails, Java, .NET? Right. And obviously no one does all that. But they would put it in the job rec.
They would put it in there like they knew what framework was the best to build that thing.
Do you have 10 years of experience and the language only has been out for 2 to 3 years? Right. So there's some of that happens in the RFQ. Did someone write it the right way, that where you're going to get answers that you need? The second, budget. You're trying to get a budgeting question. Guaranteed you're going to get responses, depending whoever responds to that RFQ, that are 10x difference in price. Agencies are all over the place now. We've seen it. We have blended teams where they're get in other countries. They're smaller teams, hungry teams, larger agencies, full blended agencies. Your pricing points are going to be all over the place. And my biggest argument with price usually is, does that actually reflect quality of work getting done?
It almost never does. And what we see a lot that happens is a big company will go after an RFP and lowball it to put it on their books to add to the balance sheet that they've got this contract that's guaranteed for 3 years, and then they will slam every junior developer that they can find into that project. Whether it frustrates you or not, you're going to be stuck with the team of people that They're just trying to legitimize working at one of these bigger houses. So you can get into a real bad space where your quality is bad. Nobody likes working on the product, and it ultimately fails because you go after that really attractive lowball offer.
So what's the answer? What do you do if you're trying to find an agency? What's the right response to go after instead of doing an RFQ, right? Yeah. And you'll hear different terms of a little bit like a design document, maybe a feature set list. You're trying to network different companies, but honestly, it's a discovery phase.
Sure.
And you can customize that. So I think we should talk about this a little bit, Jeff. Like, what really makes up a discovery phase? How do you go after it? What is really the advantage of it? I can tell you, the first time I heard about it, I was at a South by Southwest conference, 7 years ago. And it was one of those like light bulb moments as a agency owner going, why aren't we doing discovery phases? Is it one of the conference talks? And when they talked about it, it just made such clear, easy sense. We started doing it immediately. And when companies come to us, we actually will say, we don't want to do the whole thing. Let's do discovery first to make sure it's the right project we're scoping and going after. So let's talk about that, because that's a lot packaged in there.
Yeah, so a discovery phase can be many things. I think that's what might be confusing about it at first. If you know that you're going to build a product and you know what you need it to do, obviously, you would come in and somebody building a discovery phase would maybe make a prototype of that idea. Maybe just come out of it with like a requirements document, a feature list. And that sounds like it's easy to do, right? But as you get into a room with a group of smart people, they will start to push into areas that you haven't thought of yet. You'll go deeper down the rabbit hole on what your product needs to do and how it needs to do it. It will test a lot of your assumptions, right then and there. And so whether you come out of that effort with a prototype or a better, more detailed feature list, a design document, you might even leave with some views, some like basic views on what your product is going to do, web or mobile, as part of that effort.
So how do you frame it? And let's talk financially, because I know a lot of you will want to come into this to, well, how do I know what to spend for that? And there's an easy answer, and a lot of you may already know this answer, but it's 10% of what your budget is.
Sure.
If you have a $100,000 or a $500,000 type product you're building, you carve out that 10 to 50 grand or whatever it is to make sure you're building it right. And then I would list out your biggest concerns and priorities to make sure that the path you're going down is the right path with that agency, with the problems you want to solve and flesh out. And then I would actually have, as you go to different agencies, have them pitch discovery phases for you. Well, what would you do for me in a discovery phase?
Well, the other thing about that, the 10% rule that's so great is that I can almost guarantee you that if you have someone or a group of people within your organization writing RFQs and RFPs, they're costing that much in the first place. So it really is like an apples to apples. You're just spending your money in a different way. Instead of spending your money building out this document that it's going to change. It always does. You are spending it getting to know people, right? And you're putting it's like an investment, right? It's like if you were investing in a stock and you put in a stop loss on it, right? Well, let's say that you get to the end of the discovery phase with that company and you figure out I cannot work with these people, or this is not going the way that I planned. You're at 10% of your budget, not 80.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And it's easier to walk away at that point, but you can also capture it so that whatever you finish with at that point is a very tangible piece. And it's a way to put pressure on the agency. I like it as an agency owner because it lets our team know they have to step up.
Sure.
Right? They got to build relationships. And it lets me put out that challenge right away of, hey, you're not going to work with me the whole time. You're going to work with Chris and Jeremy and different people on our team. And it's more important you like them than me. It's more important that you trust the work they're going to do on that team, because that's also the other big challenge. You go to an agency, who's am I getting from your agency?
Right.
How am I going to be assured that I'm getting the best type of team that's going to fit my culture. So I think there's a lot there, and I think a lot of people miss that. And so we challenge you, instead of spending that much time writing the RFQ, like Jeff said, take a little bit more time of researching types of agencies that you think are building great products, that you know have a proven record. Like we talked about before, if they have a good record of work and you're seeing their stuff out in the space and they represent themselves well, then sit there and break down, all right, this is what I want to build. How would you approach it? What's the first 10% look like? And that way you get help, because Jeff mentioned it. How many times do we change scope?
I mean, it can be weekly. When you get down into the weeds of a product development and figure out something's not going to work, you have to change it. You've got to build that in.
Now, it's probably worth talking about this just for a second, because some of you may work for government.
Yeah.
Right. And we spent, close to a decade working for different government companies or government contractors. And that's the RFQ world, right? And you're actually almost mandated by the government to have an RFQ process to vet pricing, all the different things. That process needs to change. Like,
absolutely,
it is a broken system that doesn't really vet quality of production and software development, and it becomes a system it's a race to the bottom, but also is not accurate. And so you're seeing projects that get blown scopes that are big budget pieces that just don't have enough
software that never ships. That's vitally needed to ship. You're also cutting out some of the smartest people in the world from even interacting with you.
Yeah.
If you're a company like us, when you see RFP, RFQ, you run in the other direction.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I laugh because there are times I still answer. We tried to do one, this month.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Like there's still part of me when I see an interesting opportunity come across the table. Man, I really wish we could do that.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get your hopes up still as a company of going, I would like to get that work, but it's just not a good process. And we really want to challenge you to get out there and get to know the people, have conversation.
Yeah.
And
talk to
ask
real
questions.
People. Stop writing documents.
Have some product discovery, a discovery phone call. We all do it all the time. You have a good discovery phone call, whether they've done, take it to the next level.
Yep.
Do that. Do 10% of your budget. Break it down, and you'll be surprised. And I think we can hold a pretty true record for the last 7 years of doing this, how close we've stayed to that budget from a 10% estimate to the final delivery.
Yeah.
It's been very accurate.
So you clearly know how we feel about RFPs and RFQs now. Tell us how you feel. Leave a comment below, or even just send us an email at contact@mobelux.com. Number one, we'd love to talk to you before you write your RFP. Second, I think we'd love to talk to you about questions you have about discovery phases. Like, we can walk you through that step, whether you want to engage with us to do that or someone else.
Yeah, I'd much rather have you succeed in building your product, asking the right questions, going down the right path. And so we're here to help. If you have questions, want to schedule something, we're here to help.
All right. So until next time.
Those types of things, reach out to us. We love those those types of conversations. We'd love to help and help push you along in the adventure of making great software.
This has been 24 Point, a Mobelux podcast. If there's a topic you'd like to hear us cover in a future episode, leave a comment below. And if you'd like to hear about future episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel or sign up for our newsletter at mobelux.com. Thanks for watching.